Okay, I'm Chad Devereux. I came at this workshop out of default. The workshop was advertised. I got a call from Robbie Dumpert that we got a workshop on data analytics. So I thought, well, I'm going to be sitting here and analyzing lots of qualitative data because I come from the music field. And I couldn't understand, well, what's the relevance of numbers to what I do? Because we just play music, we don't count numbers. And the approach that I come from is pretty much what we call a post-modernist approach. The modernist approach is doing exactly what we were doing, counting out numbers and digits, getting scientific evidence for it. The post-modernist is like, we accept that each person has a different take in the world. And only a week ago, I got an email from Rabi, well not Rabi, Rabi's assistant, Reshman, who says, look, you're going to need some data for this thing. I said, well, look, I have a lot of data. It's all sitting on the university website, which is the institution intelligence. And I didn't know what to expect. Got here Monday, I sat in my chair and started to listen to what was going down around me. And the one thing I was overwhelmed with, firstly, with no disrespect to my colleagues, was their expertise in this field. I realized for the first time, sitting here, after having done several courses on quantitative methods, etc., the value of what was presented here. I'm totally inspired by what I saw. Maybe I didn't understand all of it. I'm really interested now in going back and learning scripting. Thanks to Randir, I would have just ignored this. The moment I see anything that has formulas in it or mathematics, I just push it aside. It's like, thank you very much. You can count as much as you want, but you can't prove anything in my field because we don't put values to what we do. Randir has changed that. He's changed that. He showed me that, listen, yes, I can see where you're coming from and what are you doing, but there's another way of looking at the data, and this is what data can do to inform you. So now I'm even more inspired at the new research methodology that's kicked in, I think it's around the late 90s, pretty much early 2000, the mixed methods, where I can see greater value in terms of the way we would be approaching our research in the future. That's actually combining what we've been doing in music, which is the qualitative, largely a qualitative kind of work, together now with the quantitative work. And I must say, I've been totally inspired by the way highly complex systems and processes were really distilled at a level that I could sit out there without any background in statistics or mathematics or in programming. And I could understand this. For the first time, I had individuals speaking to me at the level where I could understand, well, I know what a data set is. I think I know what a variable is. And I think I knew, I might not have learned it on the fly. And as Vic had picked up, 2 nights ago, and he said, well, we're going to have a short test tomorrow. And we're going to ask you to explain the PY. And I thought, okay, I wasn't listening at that part. It's not that I wasn't listening. It was stuff that was just going over my head. And I thought, well, look, just hit pause. Save that space for something else that's going to be a bit more, something that I could understand. And I must say, with each of the presenters, they were diverse in the way they approached the content. But their personalities came through. And I must say, one could actually see the passion with which they do. So I'm very surprised to hear this morning from Robbie that people at, at university management is thinking on questioning, the auto scholar. For me, there's no question. This is like a given. It's like, why you want to question something that's so obvious? It's like, we know the sun is coming out and your solar energy is the way to go. Why would you want to question that? It's a given. And I think there's a naivety from what I can see in that kind of decision making. When people have not really seen the power of something, they're just making a judgment based on what they might have heard or perceived. I've actually seen it here, and I think there's huge potential for this across this university and across the country. So I must really thank the research office in putting this together because it has helped turn my research thinking around, in a way that I would have never thought would happen because I'm pretty old and we sort of see this. I've got the last 6 years, at UKZN to go, so I'm just going to see this last patch out. It's actually changed that. It's given me a sort of rejuvenation, and there's a lovely movie that encapsulates exactly what I'm saying. I don't know if you've seen it, because the older ones, they would have seen it. There's a movie called Cocoon. Cocoon is where you have these old folk who jump into this fountain of youth, and they come back re-energized and revitalized. And this is exactly what they've done. So special thanks to my colleague, Rabi, for having put this together and insisted, look, come in and sit. And thanks to our colleagues, Vic, you know what I mean, Randir, and Colin. I must say, Colin is a very dynamic way, and this is a Colin style of doing things. He's very passionate about it, very hands-on, very tactile. Go and do this. It's not like, these are the formulas. Just go click here, do that, do that. And I fully agree with my colleague earlier. Just putting the SS in front of YouTube, I've downloaded like 23 videos between Tuesday and now, just doing that. I just went ahead and did it. It's such a thing. Thank you very much, Rabi. Thanks, colleagues.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chats. Okay, this doesn't have to all be positive testimonial. We're capable of taking it on the chin as needed. So, yeah.
My name is Ephraim Zulu. I'm a PhD student from the School of Engineering under the Department of Construction Studies. When I saw the advert for the workshop, Data Analytics, I was excited. Generally, even if analysis of any kind of data is not related to my study, I generally like statistics, though it is nowhere near my field. And so that is how come I got very interested. And I was expecting to encounter lots of analysis of data, quantitative and all. The workshop was slightly different from what I had imagined, but still I did go away with quite a lot. I can break it down as from Professor Borden, his discussion on causality. I was aware of causality and all, but after he emphasized the need to not jump to causality straight from correlation, I realized that some of the stuff I write tends to move straight from correlation to causality without presenting an argument for why I think there would be causality. And with that, I think moving forward, I would need to make it a point that after I do some correlations, I'd have to check all the conditions for causality and argue for temporal order, for example, the absence of sparrowness, before I can recommend that changing one variable would therefore improve the other variable. Because in the absence of that, really, one is jumping too quickly to causality. Still from Professor Borden, I'll just pick out one or two things. I've always liked to work in Excel, and there was a time when I actually thought I knew Excel. And the more I learned, the more I realized that I actually knew quite very little. So whenever I have an opportunity to learn anything more, I jump on it. I was aware of pivot tables, but I was really never good at working with them. So I really appreciated working with the pivot tables. And in terms of that, for me, go straight to my PhD. At the moment, what I do when I collect some data, I did some pre-testing. I would straight go to SPSS and check means and all of that to just see what the data is saying. But in retrospect, I realized that it will actually work better for me if I just go to pivot tables, because I can put all the data in SPSS, rather in Excel, even work out quickly averages from Excel and decide what to compare from pivot tables. It will be certainly so much quicker and more efficient than in SPSS. From Dr. Thuka, I certainly liked the session simply on Google. I was aware of Boolean operators, but I didn't know about the others. And so now I feel I am better able to conduct a search. I've always felt that I was never really good at conducting an effective search in any kind of literature search engine. And the way we were able to put together the search terms, and I mean, starting from identifying, for example, other words that would be used for searching a particular topic from Google Trends, that would immediately feed into my PhD, in the sense that I feel I can now better look for literature. Of course, along with everything else on Google Trends, I was already able to find out, for example, some of the areas of interest in my PhD are to do with constructivism, cognitive loading, and simply from Google Trends, I can see that constructivism seems to be a declining field, much as it kind of generates much more literature than the other theories I'm looking at. It is certainly declining. Cognitive load theory from cognitive science, for example, is fairly new, and you'd be able to see that the volume there is quite very little, and that's already significant. For me, it explains a lot of things, why I'm unable to find so much literature on the cognitive load theory and why there is actually so much on constructivism. From Professor Rawatla, interesting in the sense that most of what he had to present was, I'd say, way above my head, in the sense that I have absolutely no background in any kind of coding. And so the coding language is, I don't know whether it's Greek or gibberish. However, however, it is an eye-opener in the sense that I am, my field is closer to social science than to engineering. So we do more of statistical modeling from data collected from Likert scales. But what his presentations brought to mind is that it is possible to take my variables and after plotting them and seeing that they are linear, even if there's so many, they really can be modeled mathematically with a formula. It would be interesting, therefore, moving forward, even from my research, to see if it is possible to generate a mathematical formula that models my different research variables, and after that, what they would look like on a Cartesian plane. He also was able to open my mind into, I mean, I've always heard about neural networks, and in my mind, it was something out of this world. I was surprised, pleasantly so, that it is really just a program that can be written in JavaScript. And all of that information, while some of it is not immediately injected into my current study, is very, how would I put it, was very interesting, suggests to me all the possibilities that exist out there. I wish I could code, and I would be able to try and find some of those mathematical models that explain my data, besides simply relying on statistical data. For the kind of support going forward, at the moment, I would say, normally after such workshops, when it is okay with the presenters, as and when any queries from my side arise, I would be able to email and get some clarification. Thank you very much.
The answer to the last question is yes. Rondare will welcome any email from anyone at any time of day, and we'll get right back to you. No, I do too. And I don't know if my email is listed anywhere, but it's very straightforward, vborden@iu.edu. So VBORDEN @iu.edu. Or just Google me, or YouTube me. You'll be surprised with what you find. Okay, yes.
Good morning. My name's Bev Gourea. I'm a lecturer in occupational therapy and a PhD student. I'm just so grateful, and I want to echo Chat's sentiments for the opportunity to have been in this workshop over the past few days. It's such a luxury to take a week off at this busy time of the year and to have just been a sponge and just lapping up all that I have learned. I learned lots of new words, lots of exciting things. Yes, some of it did go above my head, but I've absorbed a lot from this course, which I believe will add to my efficacy as a lecturer. So how would I use some of the stuff that I've learned here? I will be able to use it on a daily basis, I believe, in my own teaching and learning. For myself, when I'm reading journal articles, I will be able to make more sense of what I'm looking at. The words will not be so unfamiliar anymore. I believe I will be a better supervisor for my honors and master's students. And very importantly, at this phase of my life, to make more sense of my own data that I've got in my PhD, which has come at a most opportune time because I'm writing up my thesis at the moment. What has struck me during these past few days is how accessible all our highly learned colleagues have been. They were so accessible and they gave of their time and knowledge so generously. I managed to network over the breaks that we had and early in the morning, and I benefited very much on many levels from being here. What it's added for me is it's made me a little bit more confident in interpreting quantitative data, which has always been a bit of a scary thing, you know. In my discipline, we do a lot of qualitative data, and I sit very comfortably in that space, but have always been a little bit nervous when approaching quantitative data. I think the coding, although very interesting, was a little bit above my head, but I was pleased to have been exposed to it. The kinds of supports I will need going forward, I believe I will still need some statistical support going forward, someone to just consult with, sound things out with, and check that I'm on the right track. And some recommendations for future courses is that although this was nice, it's pitched at people who already have a background in quantitative work. So I believe we can grade some information from simple to complex, cover some work on descriptive and inferential statistics and how to interpret graphs, and some readings or resources would be great, like a workbook with some examples of how to present, for instance, a linear regression model and how to write it up. Yeah, that's just what I want to say. Thanks.
My name is Patrick from the discipline of educational psychology. So I came here with the intention to learn more about analysis. So, but what was happening here, it was an eye-opener because a lot of things that I've learned, which I didn't expect to learn from this workshop. Because of my study I'm doing, the study I'm doing is using mixed method. So the other section of quantitative has always been the dark spot. I was struggling with that part. But after this workshop, I've been inspired, and I've seen that there is power. There are methods, because I was more exposed in the qualitative part of it. So I am grateful for this workshop, and some people will say it's just a waste of time, but for me, it hasn't been a waste of time because it has opened up new avenues for me. And looking for what I've learned in this workshop is that your research question needs to be at a higher order and accurate in order to go smoothly with everything. And also it shapes your abstract. So I've refined my research question, and even my abstract now looks a little bit different. And when I go back, then some people, especially the supervisors, will be surprised. How did you do this? Because we know that maybe this is where we left you off. But the secret is that the workshop has done something in my study as well. So looking forward for support, I hope this is just a foundation. And this is a strong, this is a strong foundation. And I'm looking forward for the building to start being constructed from this foundation. because we have been inspired. So with this motivation and inspiration, we need to take on now to actually building the building, becoming better in our research field. I hope that support in terms of reporting, how to write a report, because we've been focusing more on analysis. Now, once you've got your analysis, so we need to report on the findings. So maybe that will be something that we need to be looking at for the next session, then how to do reporting on your findings. Thanks. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Charlie Philemon, a postdoc fellow with the Optics and Imaging Center. Actually, I have a background in neuroscience. That's my PhD. But what I'm doing here is actually I'm just trying to learn some techniques in imaging. So when I came here, when I saw the advert, I actually sent my request in line with what I'm doing here. But during the presentation, especially talking about neural network, I had this actually desire for a very long time, and that's computational neuroscience. And so, though I lack the background when it comes to coding, but I think actually I've actually reawakened that desire, and that is what I definitely want to follow up with you, sir, after, because it's something I want to do. Now, while talking about modeling, the way I understood modeling was completely different from what I learned here. What we do in modeling is more of actually sketches, a neural network, okay, connecting one part of the brain to the other. But what I saw here is different. And of course, in computational neuroscience, I've seen some things like that, but I never understood what they meant. So I think I'm beginning to see a new line of focus for my research. When it comes to Google functionalities, I think I'm an expert. Actually, I sympathize with my students because I'm going to harass them with what I've learned here. I'm just going to keep on, they will just be looking at me and say I'm just coming from somewhere else. I really appreciate what I've learned here. And of course, talking about time series, that's just wonderful. I wish I will be able to present some of my graph or some of my finding, at least in a fluid manner, at least to wow the audience. I love doing things like that. And so I want to appreciate. Apart from that, when I look at the presenters, actually what intrigued me is when you look at their background, it's so diverse, and what they talk about, I wonder, when did they actually learn this? I'm sure that is not what they were taught in school. So it actually generates this desire for me to also dive into other things so that I can be productive and help others. Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting, the question of how do you learn this? And I wondered, how did I learn to write? I'm told I write pretty well, and I was not a good writing student in elementary school. I was the math, the science person. I wasn't getting the good marks in writing. And my mother once told me I learned writing because I wrote greeting cards really nicely for birthdays, and I was writing from the heart. I was trying to tell a person what I felt. And then when I applied that to my work, which was just about when I was in grad school, when she told me that, I said, that's interesting. If you actually try to speak from the heart about even research, people actually think it sounds better than if you just try to write by some technical formula. So these days I try to untrain graduate students from writing academically, because they think writing academically is all about using big words and saying what you can say in 10 words, saying it in 3 paragraphs or 4 pages. And I've been writing to managers for a long time. And like our new president, 2 bullets is all they can handle. No, my managers can handle like 4 or 5 bullets. But that just idea of getting to the point, but also doing it with heart. So that's good. And then the other thing is, someone commented that I seem to be pretty good at, no matter what the researcher is working on, I can kind of talk with them. That's from being an institutional researcher, because actually you never know what the person's issue is going to be, whether they're talking about student success, whether they're talking about resource allocation, commuting patterns. It's always something else. So it's great to talk with colleagues who are doing research in other areas and just learning and trying to understand what they're doing so you can expand your mind. It's almost like learning a different language. Language is not just about how to say words in a different language, it's about how to think differently, because concepts are expressed differently in different languages. Who would like to go next?
Okay, so good morning, colleagues. I'm Surila Ramklas. I think I just want to echo the sentiments of Dev. This has really been for us a real pleasure being away from the office for a week, but a week of learning. And I must say that for me, the presentation that Randir Randir presented at the UTLO conference last year in terms of his student data from the institutional website and supported by Navina, I think, at the time. But it was, for me, that started the inquiry. I'm a researcher of my practice. I want to understand my students well. And what Randir presented at the UTLO conference in terms of the chemistry students, in terms of the pass rates, in terms of why they could possibly be performing in the way that they are, made me think that this is where I want to be too. I want to understand my students better. I want to be of better assistance to my students. I want to make learning a more pleasurable experience for them. And clearly, I'm interested in their success. So for a long time, I've been looking for an opportunity to understand the mechanics and the science behind what Randir presented. So I was very excited that when this opportunity, it was like serendipity, when this advert appeared on the UKZN land, and I responded. So I'm very happy to be here, except that I now know a lot that I don't know. So for instance, I don't know coding, but I want to learn it. So because I understand now that if I want to get to the level of predictors and things like that, then that's where I need to go. So so whilst it was like a lot of it was over my head, I'm a health science practitioner, I don't understand coding. So for me, it was really valuable that I was at this workshop. And also, I understand that as a researcher, research is a continuous learning process. And whilst I might have attended many other research workshops and courses previously, every day we will learn something new, and that was certainly true for this particular week. So I was very happy with the engagement that we had with Vic, for instance, and with Colin Tucker. And yes, of course, Randir just took us onto a whole different plane. So I'm very excited. I really am. And I think Vic also showed me yesterday that it's not enough to write the report from a descriptive perspective, that you want to get to that level of saying, so what really are the possible causes and predictors? And that's where I want to go. So I think this is a first step of many workshops that Rabi is planning from here on. I would like to say that perhaps the next focus should be on the interpretation of the analysis. I think that's a weakness that I see a lot in my students as well, and that would be really lovely to take it to that next level. I want to also say a big thank you to this particular group of people that we've had the opportunity to engage with this week. I think this was really a think tank amongst all of us. We came from different disciplines, but we all had our own strengths and we shared it in this room, and it just made the experience so much better. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
I'm glad to hear that your bonding is over a common positive experience and not a common enemy, because that too bonds people.
Good morning, everybody. Since this has been said to be a pilot, store, I just want to have some brief input. I think the aspect of abstract development was really very good for me because it gave me an understanding how to develop an abstract in a nutshell, just pa, 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 pa. I didn't know that I could just put together what I put together within a short while, but that has really assisted me. And at the same time, I think I was discussing with him about fundamental and empirical. And I was like, what is this fundamental? And by the time he told me, I realized that what was called fundamental was similar to what I used even in my own field, which also added to my knowledge level here. However, I observed that we have a kind of multidisciplinary composition of people here, students. And what I think is a strength, because I could remember yesterday, I went to him, I was asking him, this formula, how do you put it together? And he was able to tell me, okay, this is it, and I was able to put it together, which is a strength. However, at the same time, it can be a weakness if not well managed. I'm just being constructive and being factual about it now. I observed that some people, their background is more science-oriented, and some of us maybe social sciences and humanities. So we may not be at the same pace of learning, especially when it comes to some, like he said, when you put graphs, when you put calculations, my mind shuts down, So I was trying to understand. But automatically, my level of understanding will not be at the pace of somebody that has been science inclined. So going forward, I hope we can do more of maybe group discussion or group work, or maybe homework, or so kind of assignment, so that in a small group we come together. By the time somebody that understands is giving us a kind of general overview of what he has done or what he understands, the small people, the small group, others that are not able to catch up at that level could be able to actually get one or two things from that group, which I believe that will hasten our learning. And I also think that going forward, we can have something like an online platform where we can just interact. Like I may need I definitely will need some of this, what we have been taught in my research area. So if they have a platform where we can at least share ideas so that what is not clear to me, that is clear to somebody in the group, can be explained. But in the overall, I think I really have to appreciate you for the workshop. Thank you.
And thank you for the constructive comments. We really do want to hear what you didn't find as useful, what you did. And I even from what earlier people said of things going over their head, obviously we know we're dealing with a really wide range of where people are coming from.
Good morning. This content has allowed me to, my name is Nkechi Nebo. I'm a research assistant with the discipline of supply chain management, and I'm also a doctoral student. This content will allow me to let the students that I assist on the use of Excel in their research, like the honor students, they are really struggling with their research projects at this time. Then this content has also brought me to the knowledge of artificial intelligence, what it can do. Getting a feel of coding was inspiring. Though it seems abstract at times, I still wish to know more of it. I've seen how a model can be developed, and I'll try to look at my own variables and identify relationships between them to come up with a good model. I can better work with my Excel now pertaining to searching for information. My eyes have been opened to diverse ways that you can do that with Google and every other thing that comes with it. A good reminder and interesting ways to identify the ordinal, ratio, and interval data was also taken cognizance of. And in moving forward, I'll start to work with my Excel worksheet now. It's amazing what it can do for me. My mind is really streamlined to how I can search with Google better, especially in correlation between variables. I still need to get a focus on developing my research objectives and questions. And I have a little vote of thanks. No knowledge is wasted. No knowledge acquired is wasted, and knowledge is power. And what I've acquired here as knowledge will forever stay with me. Thank you so much to the moderators of the program for giving me so much information to refocus my work with. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Adebowale Ojo. I'm a postdoc in the information systems discipline. My background and my research has been in health information systems. I basically conduct research relating to the evaluation of electronic health information systems, how it can be implemented, how it can be implemented and adopted in hospitals of developing countries. But of late, I have been interested in data science, and for a start, I've been exploring social media data and looking at how insights could be derived from this social media data. So when the call came for the data science workshop, I felt it would be a good opportunity to come and also learn, because I've been trying to do some learning on my own, and I've discovered that you definitely require some programming knowledge and statistical knowledge. I thought I had some basic background in statistics, but the programming aspect has been proving difficult. In fact, I have been running away from programming for as long as I could remember. So this program has sort of reinforced my knowledge of quantitative data analysis. For instance, the pivot table were shown in Excel has been very interesting to me. Then the Google Trends, how you can search and all of that, it's also exciting. And before now, I never thought of looking at JavaScript as a tool that could be used for data analysis. All I have been seeing is Python, R. And so seeing that JavaScript, though it still seems very difficult to me, but I think it's something worth exploring. So going forward, I hope that there will also be programs, such programs like this, that may look at maybe giving attendees some basic programming knowledge, because I don't think if we are to successfully engage in any data analysis or data science or data analytics endeavor, you may not be able to run away from that programming side. And so if there could be workshops also organized to introduce attendees to the basics of programming that is geared towards data analysis, also basics of statistics geared towards data analytics, I think it will further help the candidates. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Osia from Social Sciences. I'm also a PhD candidate, PhD student. Okay, first and foremost, I want to start with the fact that coming here, I realized that I know nothing. It just dawned on me that I know nothing. I felt, okay, I'm a PhD student, and then for the fact that I'm at this level, I felt I actually have quite a lot that I know. But coming here, I just realized that practically I've been fooling myself all the while. So that's the first. And the workshop so far has been quite impactful. From the concept of, basically I'm writing, my research is on climate change and water security as it relates to conflict. And you know, when I started, when I thought about the topic itself, I felt that it was new, that okay, I was trying to be very creative, trying to relate the science of climate change to human behavior as relating to conflict. But when I went into the literature, I felt, okay, there are little that had been written around it. And then, for example, when we were discussing the Google Trend thing, the Google Trend and the likes, in my literature review, I was trying to do some, I felt it was new. as of that time, while I was doing it in my literature review, at the end of the literature review, I tried to come up with trends in the literature. The number of literature that has been written over time, and then I was trying to do some graphs and everything, and then I was feeling very good about myself. And then I came to this workshop, and then Dr. Collin came up with the trend thing, and I realized that I was still an amateur. I know nothing, actually. I'm still trying to learn from that. So I was happy about that. And then the concept of causality, I was already linking climate, water scarcity to conflicts, not looking at other variables and everything. But from our understanding of causality and the likes, I know that I need to establish other variables of which I know poverty, historicity, and the likes to the work. So all these things are very, very fundamental to making my research more better. And then very importantly, when I go to search for materials, I just go on Google or Google Scholar, and then I will just spend the whole day there. But from the workshop, I know now how to be specific about what exactly I'm looking for in the literature. So I guess going forward, I know that now I can get better literature that I need that are very specific. And then I did something, I think the beginning of the year, I was trying to download some YouTube video, and I don't know how to do it. I had to stop the whole land. I just stood up in the land and I said, "Excuse me." Everybody kept quiet and they looked at me. And I said, "Please, who can help me on how to download?" But you see, coming here now, I know how best I can just go easily to download on YouTube and the likes. And then on the Excel and the pivot table and stuff, that I know definitely I'll have to use in my work. I don't have to contract that. I was already planning that when it comes to the analysis of that, I'll just get the data and everything and just contract it out. But I know now I can do it myself, and that I'm happy about. And then I'm already thinking on what I want to do for my postdoc and the likes moving forward. I'm already, for now, I feel that I'm done with this PhD thing. And the prof there has helped me on the model and time series thing. I know that will be where I want to move going forward, trying to explore those areas relating to social sciences and my area. So that I want to look at. And then I know that from now, I'm already feeling motivated that, yes, I am so filled now to become a resource person in even another methodology workshop like this. I know I can go there and present from most of what I've learned from here. And like one of our colleagues said, I think it would be best if in subsequent engagements like this, we have both joint sessions and breakaway sessions, whereby maybe, because I think the first day we had something close to that, and then where we said, okay, we should form a particular group, of which the guys in time series, we just briefly met and we said, okay, what are you doing? And then after that day, we did not come up together again. So if we could have stuff like that. And funny enough, I have to confess that after that day, I was asking myself, am I actually working on time series, or I have to go back again to check my work to be sure that, okay, is this what I'm doing? So that will help us quite a lot. And then also going forward, I think that has been established to maintain consultations, if I will be able to consult the resource person at a time interval as relating to my course. And then the course material from what we have, it would be nice if we could have them online. I think some of them are already online, if we can have all, so that we can also download them and have to relate to them as a time interval. Thank you very much.
Well, your earlier comments reminded me there's, TED Talks. These are talks that are done by famous people or that are compelling in certain ways. And there's a thing called the TED Radio Hour, and I heard them doing a thing on what is original, and the question of how we value or original or even value copying. And so like in higher education and writing academically, plagiarism is like the worst thing you could possibly do, which is not not being original, but it's not citing someone else whose work you're using. But then they went through and basically said nothing is original. Everything is a combination of everything else that's ever been done in some way or another. And in some traditions, like folk music, the whole point is copying. You know, one person does a folk music song in a certain context and someone else expresses their take on it. And covers, of course, when people cover music, that's seen as something positive. So once you realize that you can never do anything new, it's some combination, then you get over it. And then you can move on and say, okay, how can I express my voice by putting things together in my way? So no problem not being original. Okay, we have a couple more left. A few more.
Morning, everyone. My name is Lidfia. I'm currently doing research with the University of KwaZulu-Natal, the medical school campus, the Department of Infectious Diseases. And we're from a study called Revamp. As quickly as possible, over time, we've noticed that many patients who are on HIV treatment still show high levels of viral loads and the virus in their bodies. So with our study and with our doctors and our nurses, we've developed a study whereby it's looking at, and even Vic spoke about it yesterday, it's looking at adherence versus resistance testing. So what we basically do is we look at how, why, the reasons for why this virus is still so strong in HIV positive patients. And we look at, is their body genuinely resistant, or are patients just not adhering to the medication and being taken how it's supposed to be? So that's in essence what our study involves. We monitor patients over a 9-month period. So when we saw the invite for the data course, we thought it's going to be looking at all our data and how we can best come up to the best possible solutions and getting our hypothesis and getting our conclusion. But I must say, when we came the first day, and I'm fairly new to research, so when I came the first day, I must say I was very overwhelmed when I got back to the office. I knew like terms were being thrown at us, coding was there, programming was there. There was a whole lot of things. But I must say, yesterday and the previous day, we've learned a lot. And even when we went back to the office yesterday and they asked us, so how was the course? So I must say we've learned a lot. And in our fields of research, we deal with mass amounts of data. I can't even explain, because if you just look at the HIV pandemic, you'll know we're looking at HIV positive patients. So the data just goes on and on and on, and especially where we're all based at different sites. We're dealing with different sites. Like I'm at Wentworth Hospital, but it's just like vast and vast amounts of data. So what we wanted to do and what we wanted to achieve, and which we've already started to, is how to use this vast amounts of data and get the best possible result from it. So I must say the pivot tables have helped greatly, because we deal with patients on first-line treatment, second-line treatment, male, female, viral loads over 1,000, under 1,000. So I must say that the pivot tables are really going to help us, because it's going to help us present data, and especially now with the rollout and with the Department of Health getting involved, this data is really going to help in the presentation of it. And I must say that programming hit us with a bombshell, but I must say we have been talking about it, which is a good thing, because it means that it has sparked our interest to some extent. And we've really enjoyed this course as a whole, and I must say that we'll be going back teaching whatever we've learned. Practically, I've enjoyed the Google session as well, as with most of my colleagues. And we've really enjoyed that as well, and we hope that as the courses and as there's another course presented, that it will move up a notch, and we'll then have that baseline training and we'll become more familiar with it, we'll get more interactive, we'll start asking more questions. So that's basically it from our side. Thank you to the presenters. We appreciate all the expertise and the knowledge you've imparted on us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margaret Alishe. I'm a postdoc at the Optics and Imaging Center of the Medical School. Actually, when I saw the notice for this training, data analytics, I think I had something else in mind. But on coming here on Monday with the course outline and everything, I was initially overwhelmed. I thought, is this for me? But I appreciate this opportunity that I've had over the course of the training. In my line of research, I don't usually generate much data, but I think this has stimulated my interest in in the use of data, and also using different type of variables that could also be considered important for my research, and also to bring out my research findings, present them in a better way. I also appreciate the session, the Google trends that we went through. It has already, in fact, I've started using it. I've found a difference in my search, the way I search for information. I've already found a difference, and the results have been fine. And I want to appreciate the presenters. They did a good job of making sure that despite our diverse background, everybody, they went at individual pace and gave us time to be able to have hands-on exposure and then practice. That really went a long way to help. They were always willing to go around to help us if you have an issue. I think when you learn something, by the time you practice it yourself, it's going to help. And I think the videos that were also uploaded online, it's a good thing. You attend so many trainings and workshops that you don't have any material to work up. But I think we can always go back to this, and I will suggest that for the ones that has not been uploaded, we should be able to get all that. It will really go a long way to help us. So by and large, I thank you for the opportunity you have given us, and the meal has been good. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you so much. I think, is that it? No, one more after you. Oh.
I'm such a nervous wreck, but anyway. Firstly, I enjoyed the whole course. You know, you can choose what you want to take away, and you know, learning is never enough. So I want to thank the speakers. I enjoyed everything that you spoke about, even though I didn't understand everything, but the way you spoke, I understood to some level. What I basically enjoyed was the Google Trends and the pivot table, which I'm sure we can use in our line of work, being an HIV researcher. But what I was fascinated about is programming. And when you do it in high school, you just do the basics, you know, you don't learn everything about it. So that I was really interested, you know. And in our line of work, I'm sure, you know, it would be more interesting knowing how to do programming in our line of work. So thank you for that.
Okay, so now that you've had a chance to give us feedback, very useful, thank you. We've learned a lot from that, and when you go online and fill out that form, we'll learn a little more.